Hey guys, this is day 9, map 2, the Supremacy 1914 YouTube tournament. I'm Lord Wolf, and I'm playing for the Supremacy 1914 community events team. I want to go back to all the way to last Friday. Probably this is going to be a different video than the others. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I took a couple quick notes to see a couple major events and decision processes. One we're looking at way back the 24th. Here we are doing shaping operations. What is a shaping operation? Okay, shaping operations are military operations that create and maintain conditions for a decisive operation to succeed. So here we have established a front line. We've met the enemy. They've met us. Everything is somewhat equal right now. So to prepare for any major assaults, any major operations, or to take advantage of any potential breakthroughs, we have to shape the battlefield. Shaping operations prepare the battlefield for a major operation by affecting the enemy, other actors, and the terrain. Well, our southern borders are pretty solidified right now. There's a couple provinces that are a strategic necessity for us to go further. And there's also reasons why we want to be active in the south, and that is to mask the invasion that is going to happen up north. We determine which provinces are strategically important to shaping the battlefield and which provinces are not. One thing I always preach on is road length. You want long roads facing your enemies, short roads facing you. Likewise, if you own a province with a short road facing your enemy and a long road facing you, then that's going to make it hard to maintain that province if the enemy attacks suddenly. Reaction time is a very important factor, because you don't need to defend so close a province that has long roads facing the enemy. It becomes its own natural border or boundary. If you look at a road, it takes the enemy 8 hours to travel down, then you can have your units 7 hours away if you're active, if you're paying attention to the map.
So, knowing that, what does that allow you to do? That allows you to hide your units inside the fog of war and bait your enemies into attacking. You always want to move inside the fog of war or beyond the fog of war, because you don't want your enemies knowing where your force concentrations are, right, until you have attacked. So you want to maintain a minimum amount of units at the borders, enough to stop a cavalry charge or a armored car charge. You can kind of estimate the numbers coming at you based on what day it is, the ability to surprise your opponents. You don't want the enemy counting your troops. You don't want the enemy knowing where large stacks of units are if you can avoid it. To do that, you have to play reactively. You have to hold them back. keep them in the shadows of war or the fog of war, and I will leave anywhere to 1 and 5 infantry in a particular province. It's to baiting your enemy into making a mistake, because he sees a small force on the border. He might try something. He might try you. But you've chosen strategic reserve points within the fog of war that you can respond to multiple provinces on the border. Keep your units in an area where they can respond to any threat. So you can cover 3 provinces with 1 instead of covering 3 provinces and keeping all your units on those 3 provinces. A good example of this is if you look here. This central province that has the armored cars in it would make a good reserve point. Why? Because it can respond to 3 provinces if they are attacked. And it should be within the fog of war. The enemy shouldn't be able to see this unless he had a balloon. You always want to think about what the map looks like from your enemy's perspective. It's very important. So if the enemy were to attack a province, for example, you can time a response to get there right before the enemy does and have the potential to catch him. And a lot of times you do catch them. Maybe you don't catch them, but that's okay, because that's part of conditioning the enemy as well. You want to condition your enemy according to certain reactions. Let's say he keeps attacking this one province and you keep responding, and he keeps attacking and you keep responding, and you keep attacking and he keeps attacking, you keep responding. Eventually he's going to stop trying to attack that one province, and he's going to assume whatever amount of units you send to meet his force, he's going to assume those units are there. This gives you the freedom to move those units. You've conditioned your enemy into a certain way of thinking. So this is what I like to call establishing a reactive perimeter. We're still in shaping operations, but we have a perimeter set. We have a minimum amount of units on the border based on border position, how fast the enemy can get there. So those here we have 4 armored cars, 64 infantry that can respond to 4 different provinces if the enemy attacks. And you're going to see this deployed successfully by Red Baron brilliantly, actually. And here you see it. The enemy has taken the bait. Red Baron has successfully hidden his cavalry and armored cars within the fog of war. The enemy has no idea that they are there, and he is attacking down a long road, which is a mistake. Never attack down the wrong road. Don't do that. That's bad. Bad for you. Don't avoid long roads. Don't attack down long roads. Don't do it. Anyways, this is all helping us in our shaping operations, because we established we want this province right here. We want that. That will allow us to apply pressure from multiple different angles. So we want that province, and the enemy has fallen for our bait. Now here we're discussing the ever important thing of timing. We've tricked the enemy, but if we spook them, we're going to ruin our opportunity. So it's important to time things out enough to where don't spook your enemy, and you can trap them to accomplish your goal. You see how valuable playing reactively is. Playing reactively isn't necessarily playing defensively. Our goal, our offensive goal, was to take this province. You don't always have to do things by force, right? You want to move the enemy where you want him to move. Move his units for him. Create dilemmas, situations where he loses patience or has to respond. Skipping ahead, what ends up happening is those units end up stopping about halfway here after this province was reinforced by Red Baron with the armored car cavalry and a couple infantry. He was able to push these units into here and capture that strategic province we talked about. And his armored cars ran right over these guys. And now, once that province is captured, you see we have 3 angles of attacking this front line right here. Now that front line is heavily reinforced. We have to create a situation to cause them to move enough units we can break through. Meanwhile, these events are happening. You see we have prepared just that. What would take those units off the line? What situation can we create? Typically, when you're at war, you want to create multiple fronts. So you can create a situation where you have a strong front and a weak front, and you can operate multiple fronts, stretching the enemy out and punching through. So this is what we have created here. You see it's the 24th. We have yet to get that province, so we're still into shaping operations. I've hidden a couple infantry in the southern border behind the fog of war to make them think that my units are also south and also are guarding the main area right here, as you see. But what I am doing and what's important is, once again, we're moving where the enemy cannot see us. We don't want him knowing where we are. I've already used these units down south. I've already pulled them back up north. So they think they're south, I'm going north. Continuing on, as things progress further, what do we see? Open roads. Open roads. Why keep one infantry in every province? Well, you want your enemy not knowing where your units are, not knowing where you're vulnerable. And if he sees open roads, he knows he's got you. And that's what we have here. At this point, well, really, 12 hours after the decision was made, that was checkmate. No one lost too many units. We maintained a good KTD. We had a couple skirmishes, but the enemy is close to full strength. But at this point, it doesn't matter because it's checkmate. There's nothing they can do. There's no way they can stop the incoming invasion. They have open roads. I know where their units are. I know that behind their borders, just looking at the open roads and the ones in the provinces, I know that everything beyond their borders with us is wide open. So what happens? Well, here you see the enemy start to react. He knows he made a mistake now. So he's beginning to move units away from that southern border. This is where Red Baron and Amynster perform beautifully to take advantage of the situation. Immediately, the planning begins. We have the units necessary to take advantage of this situation in place. We are ready. And now the enemy is moving north. They're scrambling. Here we are. We have a plan in place. You see the enemy is starting to move units away to respond to Amynster's fake attack. It was a brilliant feint, awesome by Amynster. He causes the enemy to move east, and that allows them to attack in the west, completely collapsing their front lines. And you can see the success right here. In a desperate move, they tried to do a crossing. Those are so dangerous because the time involved. You want to avoid that as an option. Amynster's able to cover. He breaks through. They're done for. That's it. Amynster will eventually circle back around to catch the enemy crossing the other way and destroy those 3 armored cars and 37 infantry. At this point, there's nothing the enemy can do.
You did some serious combat operations here. What do you think was the most important thing you learned while you were actually fighting these people?
Well, the most important thing I learned is the violent execution of a good plan is probably the key to its success.
We now have all of, or almost all of, North America under our control. There remains a couple large stacks that we have to clear out, specifically one actually. This stack right here we have to take out, but it continues to suffer from fatigue from low morale. Eventually it's going to be nothing. Should be easy, just keeping a minimum force to guard. After beating the Coalition Team 1, we still have a couple areas to take out. But now we are focused on Mexico. And we have to go over a couple of events that have played out brilliantly to keep the Central Americans occupied. Now that we're just cleaning up that one coalition, California starts making a play for Snake River. They haven't really done much, but just sit there. But now they're probably thinking they're going to eliminate some of these capitals for us. So what we're going to do is just move around that province. It's not a feasible defensive position for him, really, because he's out there in a bulge. And we're going to make it worse by coming down to the province right next to him. We're going to take this route, this province. Mainly, this will apply pressure to his capital, as well as 2 other provinces right there. But the point is, we're wanting to stretch him. He is east right now. So, enemy attacks east, you attack in the west. All we need is a threatening force, or to threaten this happening in the hopes that he will abandon Snake River and go back to his original territory.
So this is what successfully moving your opponent's units look like. They did not see what was coming. It looked like a question mark to them, so they react and panic, and it caused them to abandon this province. Now that we caused them to abandon Snake River, we are gonna go ahead and abandon the AI province we took, and we are going to take Snake River away from them. We're hoping the AI province makes a little buffer between them and us, and also we have units that will eventually come down to the west anyways and take it if we need to. So after causing this initial scramble, my plan is I don't have enough units right now to invade California, but we want to keep them moving. We want to keep them having to respond to us. This is how you maintain the initiative. The enemy has to respond to you, and you're forcing them to keep responding to you. And here I am now. I've taken both those capitals. So that's a major part too. We wanted to deny them those capitals. We don't want them getting that bonus. From here, I'm gonna let the AI take back that province, and I have 1 infantry there, so I can watch them. And if you look, San Francisco doesn't have much.
That's gonna pretty much wrap up the events of day 9. It was a lot of cleanup, really, and keeping the other team occupied. There wasn't many battles or exchange of provinces. One thing I would like to say is the thing that makes a successful team is everyone has buy-in and everyone has value. Everyone's perspective is important in a good team. A good team, you don't really know who's captain. It seems like everyone's captain and things just work. So strategy-wise, that's critical to include everyone and understand that everyone has some sort of value to add. So with that, I would like to thank my team. Y'all are awesome. Shout out to all my favorite people on the community events server. And if you love me, like and subscribe.